Thought I'd make a video of some topics. See, my hair's pretty frizzy today. It's got water. Took a shower. Head and shoulders, kind of dried it out, but went to Six Flags. Had a lot of fun. There's always things that are kind of going through my mind of, whatever psychology they're using. Do I have to take a shit, or they're processing my urinary tract faster than I'm supposed to? It's anyway. Mr. Freeze is pretty cool. The only frightening thing that got to me is sort of the whole experience is I had this crown or whatever, and I got on Mr. Freeze, and this little kid, one of the dudes, he was a twin. His little kid got behind me, like, I don't know, I guess brave little kid, right? Little kid, like, he looked like he was like 9 years old, like 65 pounds, pretty skinny kid, healthy looking, skinny, sits behind me, and there really isn't that many people on the roller coaster I'm on. And for those that know Mr. Freeze is where the roller coaster just goes and it takes off, and then they have another roller coaster and it moves into position, and so when one goes up, they're loading this one, and then this one moves out, and then this one goes like that. And it's a tunnel, and it takes off from 0 to 70 miles an hour in like a few seconds, like 4 seconds. So it's you feel the G-forces take off fast on it. You can hear the CO2 tanks go, and it takes off fast. And it's the better the roller coasters of all the ones that I like. I think that one was pretty cool. And the Batman's really cool, but it was shut down, which is your feet dangle, and it's a harness over the chest. But the Mr. Freeze is probably one of the better ones. And I had this on thinking that for some reason it's tight enough. And I don't know how this happened. And we take off, and we get to the very top, and at some point, I guess when we're going either backwards, I don't recall, this crown falls off, and I don't even recognize that it does. I don't recognize that it does until we're sort of going backwards a little bit, and getting back into the starting position, and I noticed that I had the crown like this, and I don't know how it ended up, because I don't remember putting my hands down or up, but I didn't notice, because I felt my hand, and that's the thing that's scary, because you could have a loose object, and it could it can hit a kid, poke an eye out or some shit. But it was crazy to me, because it was like right here, like, I'm not kidding you, like, I don't know how it fell off, because I didn't feel it come off or anything, and it was like this, and I was like, and I caught, and it was like this, and I go like this, and I was like, oh shit. And that's the only thing that kind of made me pretty scared and nervous on the roller coasters, because I didn't want anything to fall, and when you're at that speed, it can be very, very lethal and dangerous. But it was weird how it was just like I caught the deal. And anyway, that was pretty fun. When I go out through these roller coasters and you see all these people, it's not me trying to be brave. To me, it's not trying to be brave. I enjoy just sort of kind of not really thinking of other people so much, and going about my business, and just being part of the theme park. Obviously, I know that this whole situation, most of it is, but just trying to make the most of it. And it's pretty pretty fun, got a drawing, but just, it is a fortune. Right when I walk in, it was $100. Like, the ticket I thought was $35, which was online, but it was actually $55 because it's on a Saturday. I don't know why it would be more money on a Saturday, because there's more people. I would assume that it would be cheaper because, well, I don't know, I guess because people are off work or something like that. I would assume it'd be cheaper, just because there would be more people. You have to wait in line more. I don't know. I don't understand this. I don't understand the sales part of that yet. I'm sure that was why, but I ended up paying $55 plus tax, and then getting a $20 drink, which is a big plus to me. That you get a refill drink. That is the biggest plus, because everything's always too expensive. So I can get soda and drinks and shit. Which I don't ever drink soda, and I forgot how great Mr. Pibb tastes. It's really great soda. But anyway, I had a good sandwich. Had 2 sandwiches, Veggie Delights. Felt great when I walked in there. Had the Veggie Delights, so I knew I got the nutrients my body needed for the day. I felt really good, but I felt like I had life is a little too short, and you gotta have a good time. Enjoy the amenities of things. And I had to have a famous funnel cake. That's Six Flags. You gotta have his funnel cake. You go to Six Flags, you gotta have a funnel cake, and the original. And I remember eating funnel cakes a few times, so I had that. Enjoyed it, really good. The original didn't have any of the other chocolate, all that other stuff. I just had the original, like how it comes, and very good. And just a fortune. It was $100 right off the bat. I think it was like $91 or something. I think just a little above that, or just about $91. A little bit above that, I think it was, to get into the park. And that wasn't even for me to spend money on a food, and it's a fortune. It's just too expensive. I spent over $200 just to walk into the park, spend the day there, and ride these roller coasters. But the majority of the reason why I go there, because it gives me the chance to go do a lot of stand on my feet and do a lot of walking. And it's summertime. In the heat, I don't ever do this. I'm getting a lot of sun, get all soaked up by the water, cool down a little bit, and yeah. So, and I got these sweats. I know it's pretty crazy. I got these sweats. It protects my skin, and it makes me feel more active for some reason. It just makes me feel like I gotta go do more active shit. And anyway, so I get there, and obviously the whole park, there's no females, there's just transgenders. Got to ride most of the roller coasters. Rode the Mr. Freeze, rode the Joker, rode the Aquaman, rode the what was it? See, Aquaman, Joker, Mr. Freeze, the Shockwave, rode the Shockwave, Texas Giant, and I rode the Titan. And then I rode the Pirate little boat thing when I went there. I think that the delightful part of the whole situation that I probably needed was great to go into that little simple boat ride, floating, and you go through these sort of treasure boxes and sceneries in these tunnels, because it made me think of a lot of the amenities, or not amenities, but a lot of the bad stuff that goes on in the world that you think that it has a lot of value to it, that really doesn't have a lot of value. It's an illusion. The values of human life, like the stories that you hear about people that have all the things they've ever wanted financially, and they're fucking internally empty and life, where they can afford to buy everything, and it was just possessions they had. They didn't have anything fulfilling in life. People. And when I say people, like caring, like doing something to humanity, that kind of stuff. You have all these possessions and all these things and paintings and artworks, and it's great to have, and it's to that extent, but what really do you have? So when you're going through this, it's like a reminding of the valuable things in life. So but there were a couple of times where it kind of makes I try not to think to myself of some of the stuff that's going on with things I haven't found out about yet. Things that I'm walking in the park and I'm thinking to myself, what else I don't know. What I do that's going to be another tragic surprise. My father, maybe he did something to Frankie or one of his other kids, and he was just so secretive. I never know, and then that's going to be a surprise. You never know. I never know what the fuck people can do or say. I don't think anything like that ever happened, but you never know at times. And I knew the old man well enough, but sometimes you don't know people well enough. He was willing to be intimate with my mother. And my mother being in the position that she was, and it's so horrible because my mother's straight. My mother is a survivor of I'm going to survive, but I'm not willing to kill myself or hurt myself. I'm just going to survive, and you don't understand the desperation of that's the same desperation actions that my mother's having to take when she's a little girl jumping over a fence trying to survive from prostitution and in Mexico, because it's so much dog shit over there and there's such poor people and no life that she has to do desperate measures. God knows when she's coming over here what that lifestyle is. She already knows that she has to do this, and she's not that way, and then she has no choices. And that is a humility and things that I have to carry. It makes me very angry, It makes me very angry at the higher ups, because I think it's a lot better ways to take care of that situation. And this is not me trying to fetch out money. Those are things that no matter how much money you ever have in life, you cannot replace. I don't care. You can put $1 billion on a platter for my mother. You can't. No, the money can't buy that. Money it has absolutely no fucking value. It's as equal as dog shit. Okay, and that's the fucking truth. When a woman has to sleep with a gay man who's fucking old, that is horrific. So much of this retaliation and anger is because I think about when my mother was treated when we were going to Mervyn's, and we're going to the mall, and these ladies, some of these white ladies, I think it was this one particular blonde lady was she said something racist, but said it out loud, and my mother would turn around, and as we're walking, and it was hurtful. Because they were yeah, they're coming back from jumping over the border again, or say some shit, and they just would say it out loud, and my mother's just trying to put pretty makeup on. You know how women like putting makeup and trying out new stuff. And I remember Cisco's mother so well, and I'm going to go into deeper details with this. I remember she was able to help my mother and was willing, and at that time my mother, they talked for 2 hours. My mom had a tendency to go to stores sometimes, and when she would find somebody that was willing to listen, she would just spill her heart out. She would just she would sit there for an hour and a half talking, and I'm like, when are we going to leave? Or I would say something, or I would just kind of check on my mother to see if she was still talking, and then I'd go run off to go in the mall or whatever, toys, or go play with the other kids. And then I go check on my mother again, see if she's still talking, she's still having her talk. She's still having her talk, her long talks. She did this very stereotypes of Ivan's mother, but that was a very different situation. She did with Diana, with the abuse with that. So then what happens? Anyway, I remember her talking to Cisco's mother, and she was talking to her for a long time, and I could tell that Cisco's mother toward the end was just like, you got a lot of problems. Like, not just a lot of problems like pushing, but I could tell that she was like, she was listening, and my mother was like, she could tell that my mother was desperately wanting to, but you can only give so much in that position that you're listening to somebody, and it's not you're pushing them away. It's like, I don't have any money to give you, and I'll listen, but I was like, yeah, you know. And I remember her listening, and she was willing and listening. She helped my mother, and my mother was happy to have somebody talk. But I could tell by looking when I was standing there that my mother was like, oh, you know how like you know how like you overly tell somebody too much information? That's what my mother was doing. And because my mother was desperate, you have no, you know, the things that piss me off is I don't think it gets so overviewed is the abuse that Diana's doing to my mother and what they're doing. Even though that you know that you think you have control of the situation or you're tolerating it, it affects you as a person. That when you start going to other people, there's something that happens that you're wearing down on this sort of defense mechanism sponge that you use all the time, and you wear down on that part of you, and you keep doing that, and you're not really have a way to refresh yourself, and you do that, and you're having your child. I mean, these are very, very awful things, and I understand that bad things happen, but adding Michael Jackson to that table didn't make things 10 times, a million times worse. If it was a lottery ticket, it didn't. This is why when you gave a lottery ticket to someone else and say, go work at the radio station for free and have a good time, you can't trail it back. You can trail it back to my mother and Michael Jackson and these experiences, but if the argument of who gets what and for what reasons you're doing it for get rabbit trailed into all sorts of different directions, and that's why they do that, because they know they get away with it. And the horrificness of my mother's losing her hair. I think she's wearing extensions to maybe cover. My mother's losing a lot of her hair. And, you know, I understand my mother's older, her twin, and I don't get to look at my mother, only her twin, because that's as close as a communication I have with my mother. But anyway, when I'm walking through the Six Flags, you know, I do think of that. I do, you know, think of that, and you know, the circumstances. You know, it's hard because it's a lot more worse than I'm being able to describe. And you watch these facial expressions at times, and you know, my mother's daughter is being fucked up, and you have Sarah Cooper fucking gouging my eyes out that she's the spirit owner of Miranda, or Marissa, whatever her name is, Miranda, and she, you know, I'm dying in a hospital, you know, it's just, it's the higher ups, whoever's making this decision burned it because you wanted your mascot, and there was so much shit that becomes political power, and your money wants to buy that shit off, and you have no idea the involvement that I had. They got squandered the credit and things and involvement that I had to minimize it as much as they could, and then rearrange that shit because they knew they wanted the profitable gains. This is where masterminds and intelligence has to be crucial to this. This isn't about safety. This is an exchange for you to think it's about safety, and it's really about something else. And if the president is getting involved like that, that to me, you know, you're dropping atomic bombs, and this is your country, and you're the leader. Everyone, like, if you give an order, that's a fucking order. Safety, this right here, keep this, You got so many fucking people giving free money away, and you got a World War II veteran. This is like through the fucking roof of how obvious, blatantly, this is saying nobody gives a shit, and the movement is doing this is so blatantly fucking obvious. You're doing this to her kids. You're doing this to her. It's just time to party and forgiveness for over here, and the life is gone now. And the things that keep happening later down the road, and then your time is up. And so anyway, there's a sense that I don't want to necessarily exercise the same practice that my mother is doing, because I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to throw away my own sister in a garbage can for Sarah Cooper and Madison and Kenneth for a sympathy famous riot or any fucking celebrity. I believe that my mother should help us and alleviate this very secretly and treasured that this has a soul, this is a human being, and that the love and kindness, it has a purpose, and that you don't necessarily have to have a lavish shrine, but you have a memory of, thank you, God, for bringing this into my life, teaching me something, that you add internal value, and you keep that sacred spiritually for the internal family, and it is blocked off from any abuse from this type of selfish fucking goddamn behavior. Whether you want to go after Ken Cooper and say, you should have straightened out your fucking wife and not allow that shit to happen. It's because you have too much money and you have this shit, and it's just like, let me go and play mediumship so I have a ticket pass to fucking get into heaven and spiritual life and then pass it all. It's just, no. You don't understand that if I start DJing and at any circumstances of whatever you think is going to happen, this is a child that has Down syndrome. This is me promoting that as a positivity thing, but this isn't me fetching out getting a lot of girls for this. This is not what this is, because you tell a lot of people, and it's heart-wrenching when you hear a little kid die like that, just thrown in a garbage can, thrown in a ditch, and that's really difficult. But I'm not giving the orders, and it is too late. Whoever did this just completely shitted on it. I don't even know what the fuck. I just don't think they were smart enough and did a good job and were strict enough, in my opinion. They knew better. I like being active. Like, if I had another $10,000, I'd tell you this: I'd go to a Down syndrome. First, I'd go, my bone marrow transplant meeting. Go and check that out. Then I'd go to probably like a memory competition. Check out, because I think value of intelligence and memory is very important to help the U.S. and the world and the country. Because those people that are very smart, they have a very high responsibility. It is up to them tremendously to help with what they have, with their abilities, okay? And this is with God-given nature of born with smarts, and that's what my mother always used to do. Something that you picked up on my mother, she was, buy it out real smart. She always pointed the finger who was smart instead of pointing at herself, saying, very smart, you smart, you're very smart, you smart. And so then I would go to a Down syndrome place, I would go to Houston to what had happened, everything would happen. That's what I would be doing. Jerusalem, it wouldn't be going, sky surfing, and just doing. It's none of that. It's like what I was kind of doing before, honoring mother and father and doing the best that I can, going to historical sites. But yeah, I think that my it's a difficult situation, because they have these twins, and it's like burying my mother. She has the things that she taught me are completely erased. That's a very personal thing, deeper than people understand, because okay, and every ethnicity has nearly their own culture, but Caucasians, we have, the Caucasians have American culture, but there's, barbecue, apple pies, sort of this hamburgers and fries. There's a culture to that, but it's not rooted in deep, in my opinion, in the way that it is like Hispanic, like Mexican food, or like Italian food, specifically with food, and that you carry the food with your tradition of your own ethnicity, and you hear about the stories that people get erased, like with your tradition, and how violating that is. Like, I'm from my parents are from Mexico. I don't even know exactly where they're from. I think I don't know if my biological father is from Brazil or not. But I don't know what the story is to that. My mother could be from Spain. Who knows? But my mother was born in Mexico, and given that idea, that sort of culture gets wiped off, and then it's like not even understanding your own food or your own culture gets wiped away, and then all of a sudden, it's what happened, with what had happened. My mother has Alzheimer's and all these things that happen, and who really got the good life, and I feel bad. I feel bad when I have to go to my mother, and I feel like I'm not being respectful enough. And then you're telling her she has to be aggressive to be able to stand her own self, but it's not my mother, it's her twin. The behavior's pretty good alignment and close, and it's hard because it's a very personal violation that I don't believe there's enough brains and studies to be able to deal with that. There isn't, in my opinion. There's not enough brains to study enough to what those identical twins, what that is. So, and there's always going to be, I have to stay in perspective, and, at 41 years old, I do not believe that it is healthy to just pretend I don't have no disease. I don't believe it is, is to be careful as best as I can. I'm always looking to see if I have cuts, but take it casual as much as I can. The mortality situation, I've had chemo. This is not a brave situation or a practice of mortality. I think it's important to just kind of keep things in perspective, for sure. And the reality of the circumstances, and time is passing by. There's a big study. I remember hearing something about this, a person that worked in hospice, and they said that they did a very thorough study, and this was coming from someone who worked like 15, 20 years in hospice, watching people pass away. And they said that there's not really any way that you can prepare for a terminal diagnosis. You're given 6 months to live. You're given 3 months to live. You're sitting in a bed, waiting to die. Like, there's not a way that you can actually, because when you're actually there in the moment and it's yourself, it's very different. There's mentally, you can't prepare for that. Like, you just can't sit there, I'm going to die, and then I got Miranda's spiritual voyage ticket, and I'm just going to watch mediums, and I kind of just squander the situation, and I go to heaven. Like, it doesn't work that way when you're actually there. The reality and the state of mind that you will be in is completely deterred in ways, in magnitudes of complete closing doors. Doors don't open anymore, and that's the end of your existence, and how raw that is. How I don't say cold, but like how how voided of a universe of empty darkness of whatever that is, of all infinite of what that really is. So having to particularly, just keep things in perspective, and I'm 41 and I didn't have a girlfriend, and all, slept with the transgenders and all the other. If there's a girl out there that's available, if there is, because the illusion just keeps on going from what they're doing to me. I'm 41 and I don't know how many years, and I'm already getting old, and the ideas of the circumstances of what's going on is, if they're not willing to tell me about my mother, and they're not willing to do this with the HIV shit, unless I wasn't with HIV and but if they're willing to do that, who's not willing to do another 10 years? I'm old now. So being in a relationship, if there is something, what other problems is going to be coming with that? How a female feels, that not only that happened to me, but when you have other transgenders around and other homosexuals, and then you have conversations, and when there's something that's said that isn't liked, when something like that happens. But I think it's important. I think it's important for me to talk about the particular situation. With all this, I think to myself, it's like, I'm grateful. I could be working 8 hours a day, at some worthless job, but I think the advantages that I have is because I did have sort of this transplant, and thinking, because if I was all healthy and just fine, just working 8 hours a day until I was 65 years old, then what would my life be like? But when I got sick and got nothing from it and couldn't get a job, and I'm constantly having a tug of war whether maybe they're not going to let me work, make my money. Like, I got to make my money. I'm going to be only doing positive things because I have these projects. I'm only getting older. I got to send the projects to my friends and sort of give them a reminder, touch base with them. I'm not with them right now, but I'm sure, touch base with the project I built, Richard and the family, make them think about life and what you did have in life. Anthony, John, and what all, Nick, so I gotta, do these types of things. And when I'm thinking like, well, am I gonna have fucking money for rent? They're gonna let me to fucking work. They're gonna keep wasting time. I gotta stay productive. I gotta take my breaks. A couple days off and whatnot. I'm lucky. I'm blessed not having to work. But and I got disability, so I'm secure there. But like I said, I don't want to go back to living underneath bridges. I don't want to go back to living underneath bridges for months on end and just smoking cigarettes, constantly wandering like that. I just don't. I don't want to go underneath the bridge and fucking for months and shit, and then filling out applications, when I can be productive, So, anyway, jibber-jabbering about all kinds of topics, but there was one thing that I also wanted to talk about. It was bothering me last night. I had a little bit of a dreamy things that were going on. Now, keep in mind that I have no idea where Albert, this captain of sort of the soccer team, and his sister lived. Zero. I have no idea where they lived. I don't know where they lived. Never saw where they lived. I wonder where they lived because of the car that they lived in. But I knew that I had heard that they lived in an apartment. And yesterday I was thinking, or when I was asleep and sort of dreaming, and I had trouble sleeping a little bit because I was thinking of this sad story I remember hearing in Carrollton where there was a girl that was strangled. There was a 14-year-old little girl that was strangled and raped, and her body was thrown in a ditch, right across, within 40 or 50, within 30 yards where Chico used to live. And I remember seeing it on the news. They said they found her body in a ditch, like a fucking sewer ditch, and she had been strangled and raped, and they found her body there. And I understand that there's nothing that I can do about that. I saw it on the news, and I think they did. I don't know if they ever caught the person who did it. And this is what bothers me. I'm not playing mediumship, and you know how you sort of, for me sometimes my memory feels like a curse at times because it's stored very deep into my mind where it's not necessarily something that I'm wanting to retain or ever had the idea that it would be retained, but it's there. So I think and believe, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I think that's where Albert used to live, at those apartments right there, where that little girl it was like right near the apartments. There's some apartments right there, some ghetto apartments, where this little girl was found in a ditch, dead. And I don't know because I'm thinking to myself, because you know how it's just like a quick, I was thinking that it was like I saw Albert's car drive in there, something like that. So this is what talk about my memory's curse, where I think that's what probably triggered it to make me, because I was like, that's where he lives, because there's a different idea to think that you're playing medium, or really it's just because you remember something, you can link it to that, and it's just because okay, well, the probability is right there. So I was like, I think that's where they used to live, because I don't know where they lived. I don't know anything, and I thought maybe that little girl, that 14-year-old girl, maybe that's who they were talking about. But that was many years after Albert, and his parents would be growing up. But I thought, I can't trust anything that's on the news channel anymore, and all the fucking hype and shit's on TV and fucking Instagram and shit, because there's so much photo editing and whatnot, that maybe they had just put that specifically, that it did happen, but just didn't happen in the time that I thought it did, because they wanted to find out if I knew. And whatever psychology that they're doing, maybe they're just placing that to see if I was somehow knew something about it, or knew someone else that did, because you have all these smart people that are doing this. But I don't want to go down to that funk of what all the situation of thoughts are, but of what the world, the psychologists and all the stuff that people are doing. But it is awful. It's very awful. That's where Chico was murdered. You hear these stories sometimes, and you think, it's like, well, how is my story any more different than anyone else's and my mother's? But so I thought I'd make a video, talk about a few things, and I'm going to go get some breakfast. Hopefully, still have time. I think I still have time. I think it's already 11. Breakfast is over. We should have a 24-hour breakfast somewhere. Anyway, yeah, that really bothers me. My mother losing her hair. It looks like her twin, because I think my mother herself I think she's losing her hair even more. like than her twin. You know, because they don't necessarily don't look exactly alike, but you know, you didn't have very much life, but the money that people gave you, and that shit pisses me off. It's just like, especially, you know, especially how dirty and filthy this is, because what my mother taught me and kept sacred, just squandered dog shit. Like I noticed, like when I was at Six Flags, I saw this little girl, looks like Michaela. And she's kind of smiling, beautiful little girl, you know, looking princess, and she kind of opens up her arms and just kind of playing, like, you know, and for a glimpse, I think to myself, if I was a father, you know, and I had a daughter, and I don't say anything, and I think of Miranda, this little girl who my mother had on our next door neighbor's house, and think about what I'm supposed to do, what is healthy, what I'm supposed to stay away from, what is the proper thing to do, and to just take things casual, don't absorb them too much, and try not to sort of get frustrated at the situation, because you know, to watch a little girl in a crown who has Down syndrome in a princess outfit walking in front of your house, not knowing that this is my flesh and blood, is my sister, throwing up and shitting herself, and watching Ivan carrying her lifeless body in front of me, like she's at that time it looks like she was just like dead, man. Like, to see something like that is like a haunting story. It's like a ghost story. If you choose to believe in spirituality, if you want to go down the ghost route, if you want to go down the road of Jesus, then it's still haunting. It's a very haunting situation, because, you know, I think it could have been treasured instead of it being, you know, it makes me mad because you felt this is a sympathy ride for Sarah and Ken and Kenneth, and that, goddamn, you know, no, you knew better. The people higher ups knew better. You know better. If fucking I don't have a high school diploma yet, and I can fucking look at somebody else and do this for them and tell them and map this out, I know you can. And this was very frustrating, you know, like, I would do that to somebody else. I'd keep that, you know, sacred. It's your family. That's, you know, do something special. Don't, like this little girl who I heard about this story, thrown in a ditch, strangled and raped. You know, it was a horrible story. I saw that, man. I was shooken up. But anyway, I thought I would say something because you know, my mother had a certain way of doing things. And, you know, I don't want to make her look like she's more mentally ill, because there's things about that sometimes I feel like I have to go into more elaborations, or I lacked in the moment to give you more elaboration on it so that it's more clear for you. But does it even matter? Like this particular situation I'm going to discuss right now. Since the day that, like, since like a month or two, or like the day, or like within the month of my brother moving out of the house and going to the Navy, Frankie used to carry, before that, for many years, Frankie carried my dad's dead funeral outfit in his closet. And it was all zipped up, all nice, like he went to the tailor. And it was just, his outfit was in there, and we set it always in the very back of the closet. And my mother made a discussion and talk about this with me and Frankie. And says, el día que tu papá se muere, you know, I could read her body language. I know how she's behaving. It's not like this prepare the old fucking man, throw her body away, like necessarily conversations are now with me and my mom's twin. But she was like, and this is what she does. She goes, ojalá nada pase, but, you know, el día que ¿Qué pasa? Allí tenemos su ropa. And this is what she does. She's saying the day that he dies, she kind of tilts her head up like she's talking to God, or like she's saying in the universe of how God, believing in like the day that it happens, you're prepared for it. But at Frankie had that shit. Frankie had that in his closet since he was like 10. I mean, he was like, I think my mother kept it in there. Yeah, like when he was like 12 or 13 or 14. I don't know. Frankie could tell you that. Had his dead outfit, and when Frankie moved out, it was put in my closet. So I grew up every morning that when I'm going to middle school, part of the clothes that I'm going through is my dad's dad outfit. There's a consciousness of me going to a nursing home, getting ready to bury someone, that I talked to this old man. So it's very raw, but my mother didn't teach me, like it was shuffling, but it's hard to think to yourself that you're burying your own father this way. There's not a lot of kids and people experience that the way that I did as a kid. And it was just a preparation. It was just a constant preparation. And the reality, it's just the reality. I'm going through my clothes, and it was just there. It was like, okay, when he's dead, that's his dead outfit right there, like in his clothes. And I got shit clothes too. But I think it's important for me to talk about because, she was respected to that point, but it's things like that you don't understand, that I don't go into elaboration with. Obviously, maybe she got more credit than you thought. Maybe she got more credit than you really knew, which was even better because you still didn't hear the story that I tell you, which even evaluated the credit that you did give her. So, I think it's important for me to talk about, because, that's something money, I understand that there's so many sectors and problems in life with other people and whatnot, but this is an awful fucking thing, and you're giving these other people, was it just mad because they were probably just mad because they had to work their whole life? That was it. But you had money. There's no Christmases here. There's no fucking. You have a lot of people that are stealing money. You have all these people that are house sitting. You have all this fucking shit deal going on. This guy fucking rapes my fucking brother. He's living in a 3-bedroom fucking house with his transgender fucking wife. And he did this at 5 years old. And if I find out that this motherfucker and that family was fucking living there, and they just moved in, it makes me think, because their house was very fucking neat and clean all the time. And their yard was that way all the time. That they stole that fucking house and all this other shit. Then I feel and understand why my mother at times had to be the way that she is, because nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. They're just stealing, getting this persona, fantasy, life circumstances of what you think a good life is, and you're nothing more than a thief and self-absorbed person. And I'm not necessarily I'm talking about a lot of people. You're like, you have these coupons that are mega coupons. The World Trade Center. What the fuck is this? This doesn't even seem like an argument to me worth me arguing about. And I understand where my mother comes from with, you're doing so much shit, that's, what did you do? You went and got her pregnant with some other guy's twins and he hit the lottery again? Whoever the biological father was? Did that guy rape my mother? I guarantee you, if it wasn't Lucio, my mother got fucking raped. 100,000 fucking % I could tell you that. My mother got fucking raped. And then you waited because you knew that wasn't going to be a staple. Oh, and he's going to die too. I don't know, because I don't know any of that story. Because that's master of intelligence. Hey, use the poison. I don't know have anything to do. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to explain it and retrieve. Move forward and start shooting back. just keep moving back and keep shooting because of what the fuck you did once the information gets uncovered. You know, it's very sad though. Like, you know, nobody was there. It was me that was in Julian, because Frankie was always in his room, and Frankie was older to understand, but Julian was outside in the living room as well all the time more. But yeah, we don't have a picture in our house. It's just, you don't understand the situation, and you didn't give a shit. That is a brutality of abusing and taking of a heterosexual woman. You have a fucking goddamn transgender that you have a transgender that fucks and manipulates, slaps you, rapes your fucking kid, keeps him in his cage. Then they send a transgender to go over there. And I know that was done on a setup, on purpose. And then starts hitting the little kid because of this one. And then you don't have any idea how manipulative every time. She would be smiling and smirking and taunting my mother about Miguel, and I would always watch him talking by the fence. I would study, because her body language and face never matched like it was a pleasant conversation. Ever. It was like my mother pleading to her, like trying to make conversation on how to behave and how to be a human. They're making money from it. The little girl dies. My mother's being raped over there. Your little girl's being humiliated in front of your porch, so you can think about what the fuck you did and what you're doing with your life. Because when you don't hear none of these stories, that's why they do what they do. Because there's no one to talk about it. And you have your Christmases. You get to spend time with your family. You know, I understand this, but if that lottery ticket began to me, and you're giving a fuck you story to us to see how you can manipulate it. Head crack is over at the fucking radio station. I can't get a good job where pay my bills. You kick me out of my house. You have all these people house sitting and spending money. You're out of your fucking mind. If you have the blessings that someone gave you that, whether you stole that, or you were trying to fetch out your own life, or you have a good career and you're just better educated and you have this abundance, you're not going to steal what was on that table. And that's exactly what happened. Your life is going to pass, and it did for me. It passed by. You waited until a fucking tragedy, you know what you were, and now it's too late. It's the whole situation with the transgender rape and the political power of politics and the government and what image. It's too late. I feel very personally, for me, to accept the facts of the situation. I just feel better that's my ground. I'm HIV positive. Went to the doctor's office, as they fucking said. It's just too much. The whole country is being cleaned up. They targeted you, and this is a conspiracy JFK assassination shit. I feel much more better knowing that that's all laid out and cleared, and I move forward from there instead of fucking daydreaming about bullshit. Because I know my ground. I know my ground. The ground is I'm more planted to the ground of reality with that circumstances, but keeping things in perspective is also seems to be ignoring a lot of shit. But anyway, I thought I'd make a video. Had a good time. And you know who I saw at Six Flags? You know who I thought it was? I could have been him, or maybe it was just a healthy version of him. You know that guy that did the attempted murder on me, and I talked about he used to be a barber over at the Bethel's joint? I think he has a brother. And that was his brother. I mean, he looked exactly like him, and that was his brother. I want to say that was his brother. I saw him. I was riding the Joker, and I was waiting in line. And I looked at him. I was like, I don't think it was him, unless he got real muscular and healthy or some shit. I want to say that I think, I don't think it was him because I'm taller than him. I think, I think that was his brother. And he looks like kind of pro athlete. He does. He looks very, very healthy, very strong. And he was just like this, just looking at me. And not fucking like killer look, just eyes, focus, And I was just dead looking at him, and I was trying to see if he recognized me, and to see if he had any, if it was him. But I was more puzzled because when I was staring at him, and he finally noticed I was staring at him, I was thinking, I was like, damn, this is his brother. This is his brother. This is this guy's brother. I didn't say anything, and I just looked, just looking, and I saw him go. And I'm not trying to fight. I'm not trying to start a fight, but I look away, I got a clear look enough. And, I'm not, I'm at a park here. I'm at a park. I'm not trying to, this is not a fight to go on. But anyway. So, I think that was his brother. I saw him there. Anyway, had a good time. I'm going to go to Dallas Zoo, hopefully. I'm tired of fucking spending money. I spent fucking too much money. I got a job waiting for me at El Rancho. I'm kind of nervous because I think they say something like, well, I have to work really fast or some shit. Hopefully I don't, but I'll be unloading pallets from 10 to 5 o'clock in the morning. Pays $13 an hour. I'll be loading food from the pallets, bringing them to the floor, on the shelves. Going to be working 5-6 days a week. Hopefully that's going to go well for about a month to 3 weeks. Then I'll have to quit, and I'm off to Rhode Island. I am pushing it to the extremes right now. I have to get to Rhode Island. I don't know how long I have to wait for my teeth. I have to get this GED. Team seems to be lingering pretty bad right now. I have to get out there. I have to get to Rhode Island and because it's going to take at least a month to get settled in, get into these school programs. Winter's coming, and that's what I got to do. So get this GED, follow with this whole situation, not lose the perspective of what I'm supposed to be doing. Earn this GED, and then I can move on to what's the next steps. But that first, focus on that, and finish this book too. I'm supposed to be reading. I'll eventually finish it, finish this book up. So yeah, I thought it was important for me to talk about the circumstances. Thought it was important for me to talk about these circumstances, and so the conversation kind of went all over the place a little bit, but hopefully whoever's watching or can watch this can be resourceful. So do what you want with it. I'm gonna go get something to eat.